Hi there, welcome to Splatoon Strats, the show where I attempt to teach you exactly how to win in Splatoon. Huh? No? Okay. In this show, we'll be going over various Splatoon strategies to up your game, focusing anywhere from little tips to keep in mind to overarching strategies to make you better, to even a few theories here or there. We've got a lot to cover, so let's start with some basic theories in the most basic of modes, Turf War. We'll be going over two strategies today. One of them I've seen better results from, and one of them's more common sense under a name. Let's start with an idea. It's called line theory. Line theory and overextending is probably the number one reason I see games lost. Let's look at Walleye Warehouse, one of the simplest maps in the game. Say for example, you grab everything up to the center and manage to push forward to about here. A crafty roller takes this path or this path while going unnoticed, and all of a sudden, not only do you have a flanking super jump magnet that takes all this hard to hold turf, but your whole team is down for 10 seconds and you're worse off than you started. So, how do we fix this problem? Well, when you're in the middle of a turf war, try imagining an invisible line right where the two colors of ink cross each other. As the line moves forward while your team pushes, keep in mind an overhead view of the map and where players can sneak around you. Either stop the line moving forward before that happens, or keep a teammate back near the area and keep pushing. Holding a line in place where you'll win the game at the end of the 3 minutes might be boring, but it'll consistently win you more games than constantly pushing forward. Every map has a different final point, or a general area where it's safe for the team to stop pushing. I'll show you where that is as we go over each map separately. On some maps, like Urchin Underpass and Port Mackerel, this theory is really effective thanks to their constricted corridors. Others, like Kelp Dome and Salt Spray Rig, are a little bit more abstract, without a place to draw a clean line anywhere on the map. So what do we do with those? Well, for those maps, let's take a look at another online multiplayer genre for inspiration. MOBAs. You've probably heard of the concept of laning, but if you haven't, the big idea is that on a map with 3 lanes and 4 players, 3 of the players take 1 lane each and the other player plays support, helping prevent the opposing team from diving too far into your base. This is the most basic idea of the strategy. We aren't going into the mind games behind pushes or the role of the support player or anything like that, but you get the basic picture. As we talk about Splatoon, I'm going to come back to this basic idea of laning, particularly when we talk about setups, so keep it in mind. Thanks to how maps are built in Splatoon, laning isn't present in full force, but we can use the idea to our advantage. At our level, this just means looking at the gamepad often and checking for blind spots, or gaps in your force where players could or already have slipped through. If team members are battling over an area and there's a section of the map completely covered in the enemy cover, your time will be better spent covering than super jumping over to your teammates. While we're talking about this, try thinking about Turf War less as a battle over turf coverage and more of a battle over time. Battles in Turf War can be turned around in a matter of seconds. If you splat someone, you take approximately 10 seconds off of their team. If you cover largely unoccupied area, the opposing team loses not only the time to cover it, but also the time you subsequently take away while they're covering that turf. That's not to say that splattering your opponents doesn't matter. Players who go 0 splats and 7 deaths are rarely on the top of their team. On a related to laning note, if your team is always in one area, the opposing team is bound to sneak around you. Split up so your base doesn't get covered. Your standing as a team will end up being much more solid when you all push together, and your line will be significantly more unbreakable when you're more evenly spread along it. Each strategy has a different level of effectiveness based on the map you're playing on, and again, I'll talk about what strategy is more effective based on what map you're playing on when we go to cover each map. So to recap, don't overextend, and look for places where other players may have overextended. Join me next time when we talk about the 2 different types of openings in the game, and about your role on the team based on your weapon.